But we begin this afternoon with Macomb County Prosecutor Peter Lucido taking aim at Governor Gretchen Whitmer over her coronavirus nursing home policies. Thank you for being with us. I'm Glenda Lewis.
And I'm Alan Campbell. And tonight, Lucido is calling for a panel to review nursing home deaths related to the coronavirus.
Lucido, a Republican who is one of Governor Whitmer's biggest critics, is accusing the governor of putting lives at risk by putting COVID patients inside nursing homes used at hubs early on in the pandemic.
Both Warren and Shelby Township have received complaints.
Yeah, there is a political component to all of this. Michigan is one of 5 states where the GOP is targeting Democratic governors. Last year, under the Trump administration, the Justice Department sent letters to governors in Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and California asking for data on nursing home deaths.
7 Action reporter Jim Kurtzler has been digging into this story all week long. So Jim, Lucido is saying that this move is not politically motivated.
That's the position he takes. He says he's responding to people who want answers, and he says he's responding after, as you indicated, 2 people have come forward since our first report with him about this on Monday. Do you know how many hubs there were in Macomb County?
I don't. Like in Roseville, for instance, there was 10 employees that passed away as a result of waiting on those most infirm that couldn't take care of themselves. 10 of them. I further know that over 20 people were lost in that same nursing home.
20 residents?
That's what I was told.
Lucido has now established a reporting and review process. This 3-page form for family members to fill out, give it to their local police. Then the case will go before a medical review board, headed up by the Macomb County Medical Examiner. That will establish probable cause and whether it's a crime. Lucido said on Monday possible criminal charges could be misconduct or reckless endangerment against the governor who set up the hubs through executive orders. Have you altered the possible charges? Could there be more? Are those off the table? Where do you stand
So depending on
what's
the facts,
the finish line with this?
It's a good question. And I'm glad you asked. There could be a host of charges, but in addition, there could be no charges. So let's make it very clear. If at the end of the full investigation, there is not the proof that's necessary, there would not be charges.
Lucido says since our first report on Monday, 2 police reports about nursing home deaths were made by family members in Shelby Township and Warren. We were told again today Governor Whitmer nor her administration were available to discuss this. We were directed to a University of Michigan researcher who studied this last year with the state.
Our findings were that the state policies that were put in place for the nursing homes were appropriate.
She says the state set up 21 hubs inside nursing homes to isolate and treat COVID patients. State figures show more than 5,000 nursing home residents died from COVID, about 1/3 of all cases. It's not known if COVID spread from people put into those hubs.
Is that being tracked? Does the state know what that is? And do you know because you've worked with the state on this study?
Right, so we looked at the data around that question. Because many of the nursing homes reported the data in different ways, we didn't have in the early months great data on the source of admission for those patients. We did not see anything in the data that led us to believe that there was significant transmission. That's not to say that somebody didn't get COVID from a patient that was transferred from a hospital.
Now, she goes on to say that the nursing homes applied to be hubs and they were paid, she says, $5,000 up front and $200 per occupied bed per day after 30 days. She also says there were 244 deaths inside these hub nursing homes, but it's not clear how those patients contracted COVID. We're going to have a lot more coming up next hour at 6, including a protest out here by union nursing home workers. One who talked with us says she lived in fear for herself and her family, being a frontline worker with COVID inside one of these hub nursing homes. We'll see you next hour at 6. Live in Mount Clemens, Jim Kurtzner, 7 Action News.
More to come, that's for sure. Jim, thanks for that live report. Glenda?
All right, Alan, and joining us now live is Wayne State Law Professor Larry Dubin. Professor Dubin, thank you for joining us.
Yes, my pleasure. It's University of Detroit Mercy, though. to law school.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Well, at this point, we're not aware of the evidence, okay, if any, that the governor has broken any laws. Is it unusual for a prosecutor to come forward and ask the public for evidence against not just a citizen, but a political opponent?
Well, certainly there are times when a prosecutor is aware of criminal activity that has taken place, and there will be a request for people to come forward to give information about that occurring. And prosecutors also have investigative responsibilities. I think in this case, the statement by the prosecutor that there could be criminal action certainly causes one to at least examine the potential motivation that there may be a political reason for this type of statement, that there could be criminal action. My understanding is that the governor did follow CDC guidelines. So it would seem, under the circumstances of the facts of this virus creating all kinds of problems initially that were later discovered in good faith, would make for a very difficult criminal case. And that's why conduct your investigation, but don't start talking about there could be criminal action. I think that that's where you potentially cross the line.
Okay, a little too far. Okay. Well, prosecutors, we know, are notorious for being tight-lipped about the cases they're pursuing. So what are the reasons for that? Talk to us about that. And do you think Lucido is going about this in the right way?
I think that if there is any kind of investigation, and I certainly don't know all of the facts that he has, that he shouldn't be coming out and bringing in criminal action against the governor at this juncture. Prosecutors, under our legal ethics, are called ministers of justice. And I think what that term means is that you don't have any political motivation when you're determining whether there's been criminal conduct. And I think that's where one could say, is that part of the motivation here? Maybe not. But I think that a prosecutor has to be very careful in proceeding against a governor of a state at this juncture where there is so little facts put forward to show potential criminal activity.
Well, speaking of, potential criminal activity, we've all seen Governor Snyder recently charged with willful neglect of duty for his role in the Flint water crisis. If Lucido is considering bringing charges, does that seem like the most likely one he would go for against the governor?
It certainly would be some type of neglect in office, I would assume. Again, there is no evidence that I have seen or no official complaints that we have seen. In New York, where Governor Cuomo has been shown to have reported the deaths in nursing homes inaccurately, I think there's a basis for bringing in perhaps law enforcement to investigate the underlying facts and whether there was a breach of his responsibility. I haven't seen any of those facts being disclosed here, other than some people were unhappy with the fact that people were dying in nursing homes. Clearly that took place, but to infer criminal conduct as a result of that, I think is a fairly large leap of faith to take in making this kind of announcement.
Yeah, and obviously facts are waiting to be received and garnered and gathered. So Professor Dubin, we thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Alan.